The truth. Let's talk about the truth of what's going on in the Phoenix real estate market. You guys, I'm here every Monday. I share data and information based on a few different sources of what's going on in Phoenix real estate. But I thought it would be really helpful for me to talk through what I'm seeing on the ground level, not just in the market, but with my clients, experiences I've had with my clients, and really kind of the overall feel from everyone that I talk to on a daily basis, whether it be mortgage lenders, other agents, or buyers, sellers, and investors. So we're going to talk about that today. And then, of course, I'm going to throw in some data because I always love to look at that, and hopefully that's helpful. One thing I've noticed is that I watch a lot of different YouTube channels, podcasts, different things to really get a pulse on what's going on in the market nationally as well. And there are a lot of creators out there that provide information on a national scale for real estate, which is great. But on some level, it is so important to be hyper local when it comes to real estate for the reasons that I just mentioned. Because when you're actually operating in that business, in that location, you have a much better idea of what is actually going on rather than just looking at data points to understand. And there's a number of things that I hear when I watch these videos that are a little bit out of context and usually not poor intentions, but just don't realize maybe the seasonality of Phoenix or the reasons why things had changed at certain points when they look back at the data. And so, say all of that to tell you and caution you as you're watching things that might be more of a national perspective and then try to give an opinion on Phoenix. Don't take it all at that fact. I would take it with a grain of salt because sometimes there are some nuances in our market that you don't really know unless you operate here. I thought back what has been going on in the last month in my business. What is something that I can share with you guys so you get an idea of what's really going on the ground floor. So, over the last month, I have had two multiple offer situations. I've had two lowball offers on listings that I have. I've had one buyer cancel due to an inspection that was just awful, frankly. I've had two appraisals come in over the purchase price, and my showings on my listings are up 150% from the beginning of the year. So, what does all of this mean? Let's talk through it. So, two multiple offer situations. That's kind of hard to believe. I know. I didn't believe that this was happening at the time, but it did. Both homes were in Scottsdale, by the way. One was priced competitively, and that's really what stirred this whole thing up. The other had been under contract, went back on market, and just happened to have a lot of interest. So, two multiple offer situations within the last month. I also mentioned that I've had two lowball offers on my listings, and these are offers that were just not going to work out, way below the comps, not really anything that could be worked out. And the sellers were like, heck no, because sellers at this point, for the most part, don't have to sell. And they're not in that fire sale mentality. So these lowball offers didn't go anywhere. I've had a buyer cancel due to a bad inspection. And the reason that's an important point to make is over the last 2 years, a lot of buyers just took these bad inspections and did all the fixes and repairs on for themselves once they closed on the house, even if they weren't getting a credit. And now buyers are like, no, I don't want to deal with that. I'm going to find another house. So that I think is something to be said for the power that buyers have right now. And two appraisals over the purchase price, which was shocking to hear about. And both, I think, purchase prices were at probably that market level. So it's interesting to see that appraisers are valuing them a little bit higher than where we got under contract at. And then my showings are up, all that activity. So a lot more buyers looking at the listings that I have right now. And that says something about buyer activity and buyer demand. And all of that really aligns with what we're hearing out there with rates and that buyers are kind of coming off the fence. So Those are some things that have been happening in my business on the ground floor. And what does all of this mean? Well, it's kind of a mixed message, right? We're getting lowball offers, but then we're getting multiple offer situations. So, one, it depends on the type of property, the location, the price. But two, it also is kind of more of a balanced market. Technically, according to the Cromford report, it's a very mild seller's market, but this just indicates to me that we're balanced. We're seeing a little bit of everything. We're seeing some people push their luck as a buyer and as a seller, and others that are being really competitive, and some that just aren't interested in doing what they need to do to get into a house and write the right offer and that kind of thing. So it's a mixed bag right now. But let's look at the data because there's a few things here that I think are important for us to track. And in addition to all of this information that I'm sharing of just what I'm seeing with buyers. So here we are today, 16,000 active listings on the market. And why do I have all these previous years up here? Well, because I was just watching a video recently that was talking about how the Phoenix real estate market has had a surge of new listings. Um, does not look like a surge to me. Now, we did have a surge in 2022 from here to here. But one thing you need to keep in mind is that if any of these channels or creators or reporters are comparing right now to 2020 through 2022, it's not a very good comparison because I think we can all agree that the activity in those last 2 years was an anomaly. So we really have to look back to these previous years of like arguably not even 2019, but we'll leave it in there. 2019 to 2014 was the last time we saw a more normal, balanced market or mild seller's market. And so, where do we stand right now in terms of our active listings? We're right in line with what we used to see. We're just out of the crazy years where we didn't see any new listings. And we did have this surge last year. And that was at the time where everyone said, oh crap, I think I missed the peak. I better list my house. And the fact of the matter is, most of these didn't even end up selling. A lot of people took their house off the market. So active listings are not shooting up at all right now. They're actually below where we ended 2022 at. You can see how this has trended down and we have not recovered yet. So we'll see if this changes. Our busiest time in real estate here in Phoenix is the spring. So we do usually around Super Bowl pick up a lot more. We start to see more listings come to the market. So we'll see if that's the case. But you can also note where we started last year, about 6,000 listings. So this was extremely low. And that's really what created our seller's market and all the craziness because we just didn't have enough homes for the buyers that were out there. Let's look at the median days on market because I figured this number would start to be trending down, and it is. So we went, I mean, not a huge change, but 56 down to 50 days on market. This is the number of days on market before the seller receives a contract, and this is the median. So we'll have to keep an eye on this, but it doesn't surprise me that this has started to trend down as we've seen more buyer activity out there. Number of price changes per week. This is price cuts. So these are sellers that are decreasing their listing price. And this has started to decline as well for a number of reasons. One, I think sellers have become a bit more realistic that last year's market is gone. And two, we have started to see more buyer activity that has actually taken these homes off the market. And so sellers don't have to continue to cut their prices to try to get a buyer interested. We're actually seeing the demand come back. So what's interesting though is this is about 2,000 per week for price cuts this last week. And at the peak in October, we were double that, about 4,400 price cuts per week. So we've definitely come down. Like I said, combination of factors changing that, but I do think that the buyer demand out there has really helped to this to start to come down. Listings under contract. So this is showing, again, activity in the market, buyers taking these homes off the market and putting them under contract. And we've started off to a hot start here in January. Usually it does shoot up at the beginning of the year, but you can see the first couple weeks are usually pretty mild. And then we start to see the uptick. And this year we just went straight out of the gate, straight upward. And so this is something to watch as well because we are starting to get closer to these numbers that we saw last year and not lagging so far behind. Um, so this again is showing that buyer demand activity. So I'll be interested to see this and also look at the space between these dots because that's a pretty big gap between these two versus in the past it's been kind of smaller changes week to week, and this has been pretty accelerated. So again, showing that buyer demand coming back. I'm not surprised based on what I've been seeing and feeling out there with my clients. And then percentage of closings with seller paid concessions. So this has not changed, and this is a lagging indicator, right? We need closed data to be able to determine who paid closing costs. And so I'll be interested to see if next month or the following month we start to see this declining. But right now we have about 51% of sales in December, because this is about a month ago, that had a seller paid concession, and that median was about 97.50. So take that as you wish. If you are a seller or buyer, might be something you can ask for, or might be something you should expect to be asked. But again, this is lagging. So this is kind of where we existed back in December, where we exist now. We won't know until all those closings are recorded. So that's the data. And honestly, I was just curious to look into it to see if that aligns with the things that I've been feeling and hearing from clients. And it does. And I think these are really important things to keep an eye on because they help us understand the direction of the market and where we may be heading. So that's all I have for you guys today. I will caution you as you're listening to any national information, just keep in mind that everything is hyper local as it relates to real estate. And a lot of times things can be taken out of context, but I'm happy to help if you have any questions. If you aren't sure if now is a good time to buy, sell, invest, whatever, I actually have a link below where you can set up a time for a discovery call with me, and I will chat with you about your situation, give you some insights on what I'm seeing in the market, and hopefully help you make the decision that's right for you. So thanks for joining me. If this was helpful, hit subscribe and hit the bell for notifications so you can be with us every week. I'll be back on Monday with a market update. I'm Caitlin McKegg with the Desert Dreamers team.